proudest that you've done here with this team as far as either extensions, bringing somebody in before camp gets underway in July?
Yeah, we had 5 free agent prospects in today. Maybe it was 6. But we're doing that. We certainly, there's an active free agent market relative to some pretty talented people out there. We want to keep a close eye on that. I never shut the door, never, relative to the potential to smartly add to our team for this year. And I emphasize that for this year. Mainly, I would tell you that 99% of my thinking is about this year. Now, you got to think about the impact on other years when you make these decisions. So you name it, whether it be Zeke, whether it be where we are with like the guys that we worked out here today. We're all the time looking to add depth not just for training camp, but also add depth for that 53. So it's all wide open for me.
You mentioned Zeke, but what about DeAndre Hopkins, free agent receiver here?
Yeah. Again, what we don't dismiss any possibility. It's unlikely.
Okay. Have you had some talks with Zeke about coming back?
Again, I wouldn't want to get into the nature of how we've done it, but certainly it's no secret that Zeke is evaluating what his opportunities are, and we're evaluating what we're doing as well.
Jerry, how do you guys get back into the extension business like you did in training camp years back with Tyron, Travis, Scott Witten, Ware, all those guys? How do you get back into that with guys like now like CD, Trayvon, Steele, other guys that might be up?
Well, I think I believe you're alluding to where it's the known communication aspect of it. We're in that business. I'm not trying to be trite, but I'm noodling around on contracts probably every day of my life that I've got a pencil or a piece of paper in front of me. So that's constant. We're constantly working on thoughts about how to give us the best value for our, for our money, and in this particular case for the cap. So, but we're in that, and I don't want to imply that we've got any particular thing that we're negotiating on right now. But negotiation is almost when you're married. To say that you're negotiating on a marriage contract, then that's kind of taking liberty with the fact that, well, are you married or not? But we, in this particular case, the players you mentioned, most of them were a part of our roster. I don't look at it as though we're negotiating for them being on the roster or in the future. I consider at any given point in time, short and long term with these players, and most of them I'm thinking past the year that we're talking about.
Is it harder to close those deals nowadays than it was 5-6 years ago?
No, not any harder. You've got the same recognition that you've got. There's always consequences when you agree, and it's consequences on the whole, not just on the players' issues or the players' money itself. So we have to think about those things. Those things have always been there. I've had to do what we do with the salary cap. I, like millions of people, have had to do that most days of my life. And so if you're not thinking ahead and looking around the corner about where you're going to be with your finances months and years down the road, you're asleep. And so when the cap system came in, when we started managing the cap, since I'd spent a lifetime managing the cap, that was not any change in my mentality on a daily basis.
We've talked since March about wanting to do get Dak done before the season. Where are you at in that process?
We're, again, mentally, as we always do, continually thinking about what might be and what we may need to do. everything, every one of these, and I hate to just generally give you an answer, generally speaking, but every one of these impact others. We all know that, and we've got a good feel for where we are to the future relative to our available dollars. I like where we are relative to the talent that we've got, and I like where we are on this day. The facts are that this thing is a fluid thing, and 15, 20, 30% of it is fluid every minute of the time.
Would you say you'd like to wrap up one or two of these contractually before camp, but it's not imperative?
That's correct. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. It is not imperative for me to wrap anything up at any particular period of time. We've got it right now to where we'll go to camp and have our year based on where we are contractually.
Would you like to see the DAC extension done before the others, just because of what that does?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And I'm not trying to give you a vague answer. It just is not a prerequisite. Pollard has nothing to do with DAC.
Kicker situation, where are you?
We're got a lot of options and looking for more. But we don't have a solution there, and don't know that we will as we get to camp.
So you don't know if you're going to add a kicker before camp?
No, we do not. It's likely, but I don't know that. And we don't have anybody right now that's imminent.
Jerry, any Ring of Honor plans this year?
No, none. Well, I'll look at that later as we get on into the year. Of course, obviously, we've got DeMarcus that is front and center here.
What you've seen so far in OTAs, who has stood out for you? What have you liked so far?
Well, we really, in my mind, have not had a chance to evaluate other than just look and see the personalities that are involved with it. As you know, we've really got these OTAs honed back physically. But in general, let me say this, I did not see any disappointing things on our draft picks.
Right.
And I saw some positive things from a handful of our free agents that made us affirm to what we had hoped we might see when we got them more on a daily basis. So I like what we see right now. I like, personally, like the fact that we're out of this period of time. We'll be out of minicamp, knock on wood, without any serious soft tissue injuries, things like that. And the ones that we do have that were brought in or be ready to go by training camp.
This is the first time, I think, in 15 years that you've gone into a season coming off back-to-back winning seasons with these 12 wins. Did that play into your approach this offseason with the trades for Cooks and Gilmore, the sense that the base is here, we finally gotten the base back to where we want it to be, and now we can start looking at some of these things maybe we hadn't?
Well, I think the things that got us to the back-to-back seasons are the things that dictated my thinking, and I'm sure others, as to the off-season moves that we made. And make no mistake about it, we've done some good things this last 2 years, but we also did some things that there are things that we can significantly do better. That's why you saw the coaching changes, and that's why you've seen the definitive personnel moves with the veteran players that we've done. We knew specifically what they were going to bring to the table and what part of the team they helped, and then both the coaches as well as the duties of the coaches. Mike's being involved like he is, calling the plays, if you will. We're overusing that a little bit, not to the extent that he won't be calling plays, but more it may imply that he probably had less to do with what was being done on the field the last couple of years than he did. He had a lot more to do with it than that sounds like. Well, all of a sudden he's going to be calling the plays. But he did have that. But specifically, the allocation of his time, where he spends his time. We all know the busiest guy on the the entire staff is the offensive guy that if you install, you make the call. You can't call if you don't install. So Mike's installing and using his staff around him to do the best job he can there. I'm excited about the way we've got this structure. And it's different, and it was intended to be different.
When you look at Dak and the interceptions that he had last year, do you look at something that needs to be fixed with Dak? Or just was last year a one-off in your mind?
No, I think there's several things that when you try to improve that you can work on. And in the case of if you want to address interceptions, you can address protection. You can address aspects of the running game. You can address certainly the out of the backfield routes, the short routes, and you can address how much of the field that on any given play that your quarterback is trying to cover. All of those things are tangible but impactful. All of those things should potentially adhere to quicker releases, which gives us a better chance to block them up. I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but we are fundamentally doing some things different in the offensive line that let us block them up, protect, and he's going to be doing some things too that work with that let us get that ball in a spot quicker than we have.
We're going to need to wrap this up.
You've got a lot of numbers on the offensive line, a lot of tackles. How does Terrence Steele fit into that, and where is he physically?
Well, I'm liking his flex that we're mentally thinking about, and I think the fact that those tall guys with that kind of length, arm length especially, I like the fact that they haven't been ruled out inside. I see how that can work, and those guys happen to have the athletic ability to knee bend and play with a lot of length. To the extent we can get that and they can get the strength that we want, or by design of splits, things like that, that we can do that, then those guys, if they're in there, they've shown they're going to be able to play. They won't be in there if we don't have confidence and to be able to block it up. In terms of protection in the pocket,
Generally,
I'm not worried about as much about the run game and running the ball as I am keeping it blocked up for the protection of the quarterback.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.